Hello, everybody. Welcome to NFL Live. You know Jeremy Fowler, Nina Kimes, Marcus Spears. I'm Phil Murphy. They're still sweeping confetti off the floor of the Superdome. But we're a little off-season. We got 32 teams already looking ahead to San Francisco Super Bowl 60. For San Francisco, one key piece might be in another uniform by then. Deebo Samuel raised eyebrows over on Radio Row at the Super Bowl, walking around in an A.J. Brown Eagles jersey. At the end-of-season meeting with Kyle Shanahan, Samuel requested a trade. The franchise is willing to accommodate. What would that mean for the team? George Kittle was asked. He said, quote, "You can't really replace Deebo. He's one of the most unique players in the NFL because of what he can do. Deebo's a hell of a football player. I'd love sharing the field with him. If that's what happens and he's traded, I'll be very sad. But at the same time, I'm always happy for guys to get opportunities, and that's all you're going to ask for in the NFL. The 49ers have been objectively better with Deebo on the field the last 4 seasons, averaging over half a yard more per play with Deebo on field, better QBR. Their EPA per play is twice as good. In fact, that EPA per play would rank as the best in the NFL since 2021. And over the last 2 years, San Fran 0-4 in games he's missed, 6 fewer points per game. But Jeremy, it's been pretty quiet since Deebo made this trade request. What's the level of interest in the league around him?
Phil, there's some interest. I just checked in on this. I was told that several teams have expressed interest. So at least preliminary talks on a potential trade have happened between Samuel, his agent, and the team. The question is, are these teams willing to wait him out to force the 49ers to potentially cut him or not? So to trade him, there's some cap implications for that. He's got a $15 million roster bonus due later next month. And so that really at least sets an artificial deadline here. And so there's going to be interest. It's just a matter of whether teams willing up to give draft compensation and pay that option bonus. They're not down the road yet as far as contract negotiations on a new deal. Still very early in the process.
And Marcus, for the 49ers, I mean, we've hit on the stats. They spent a first-round pick on Ricky Pearsall that extended 2 other wide receivers. Assuming Deebo does depart, how much will his absence affect the 49ers offense?
I mean, it'll affect them a little bit because I'm sure Kyle Shanahan had packages for Deebo Samuel throughout games to kind of exploit advantages against defenses. But ultimately, the cupboard is not bare. Injuries killed this team last year. That was the reason. You still would have George Kittle. You still would have Brandon Ayuk. You still would have Ricky Pearsall, that first-round draft pick that you mentioned, Phil. There's a lot of guys. And more importantly, CMC coming out of the backfield, barring his health as well. So this offense doesn't have to change because of the absence of Deebo Samuel. Now, you do lose a dynamic playmaker, especially a run-out-the-catch guy. He has some drops this year, which I'm sure he'll fix. That's not been his history. I'm a big fan of Deebo Samuel. I think everybody knows that if you're a fan, if you watch NFL Live, I think he changes the way defenses have to play you, and you have to be cognizant of the matchups when he's in the game. I think there'll be a lot of teams that can utilize him in a very significant way without him having to be the main guy at the wide receiver spot or whatever you deem him positionally.
Yeah, I think Marcus hit the nail on the head when he said that this was a team-wide issue in terms of all of the injuries on the offense contributing to what we saw last season. One thing that really jumped out to me, the Niners went from ranking first league-wide in yards after catch per reception to 20th. And some of that had to do with a little bit of decline from Deebo. A lot of it had to do with Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk, by the way, not being in the offense. Because while Brandon Ayuk isn't a yak guy, he creates space for players to work underneath. So getting those players back will help. I still think that if they move on from Deebo, even with those players coming back though, they need to find a receiver who can work underneath, especially with Ayuk back in the fold. Especially because not only is Kyle Shanahan so good at creating those opportunities to get yards after the catch, but you got a quarterback in Brock Purdy who throws the ball quickly and accurately. So you want skill players who can benefit from that, particularly over the middle of the field. So if I'm San Francisco and I move on, that is something I am thinking about when I look at the draft. Are there players who can sort of not replicate Deebo's skill set because he truly was a unicorn, but at least contribute in that way?
Yeah, the 49ers believe this cupboard is not bare, that Juwan Jennings can make another jump, just like he did last year. He can do so in 2025. Ricky Pearsall, they believe in him. Yeah. But one key component here that I was told from a couple people around the league is the 49ers want a drama-free offseason. Last year was difficult. They didn't have great participation in their offseason workouts. They had players holding out for new deals. They're hoping to kind of just strip things back and get back to what they do best, which is play good football.
Mina, quickly to you, to what do you attribute what Jeremy said about the limited Market or appetite for Deebo Samuel here? Marcus, sorry, question to you. Limited appetite for Deebo Samuel. To what do you attribute that?
I cannot hear.
I think context is important when you ask that question, Phil. Limited market. A market is only 2 or 3 teams if they willing to sign you and put you in a role that's phenomenal. There are very few players that are going to have 15, 20, or even 31 teams wanting to depend on their services or even ask about them. We got one guy that's coming up later in the show, and Myles Garrett, who will be that guy. But Deebo will have his suitors. He'll have people that believe that if they implement him into this offense, that he can be that playmaker that they saw him be in San Francisco. And obviously, new scenery is a real thing in the NFL. There are opportunities on other organizations and franchises that may reinvigorate Deebo. He's been in San Francisco. They've been knocking at the door of Super Bowls. They weren't able to get it done. So it may be a newfound energy when he ends up with in a new place.
Yeah, and for the San Francisco 49ers, dip in productivity notwithstanding, you imagine there will be a play calling adjustment if Deebo does depart. One of 2 wide receivers ever with at least 200 rushing attempts. The other, Dexter McCluster, who spent his last 2 years at Ole Miss as a primary running back. See, NFL offseason business already open.
How's it going, everybody? Villa Sports Network here. Just want to thank you guys for your support on the channel. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Also want to kind of remind you to don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment on the video if you like as well. But regardless of the fact, thank you again for your support, and hope to see you on the next video.